This video is the second in a series on Romans 5:12 to 21, and whether it is at odds with evolution. One reason that many claim that the passage is at odds with evolution is original sin. How? Well, many Christians make a sequence of claims. First, Romans 5:12 to 21 teaches original sin. Second, original sin requires a literal Adam. Third, a literal Adam means no evolution. So evolution and Romans 5:12 to 21 are not compatible. There's a lot to unpack here, and we're going to move pretty quickly, so buckle up. To disprove this assertion that Romans 5:12 to 21 is at odds with evolution, we just need to knock down one of the three legs in the argument. I think we can actually knock down all three. Let's take the claims in reverse order. What about the third claim? Does a literal Adam mean no evolution? Not necessarily. Joshua Swamidass has proposed a scenario whereby Adam and Eve could have been specially created in a literal Garden of Eden 6,000 years ago and be the genealogical ancestors of us all, with evolution having gone on back before 6,000 years ago outside the garden. Also, if early Genesis has strong figurative elements, as I believe, that doesn't preclude God having started his relationship with humans by approaching a couple in our evolutionary past and making them federal heads or corporate representatives for the entire species. So it is possible to have a literal Adam and evolution. Now, how about the second claim? Does original sin require a literal Adam? Maybe not. Let's first define original sin as being born guilty because of the sins of another person who lived in the past. Well, if there are figurative elements to early Genesis, and Adam is a stand-in for humanity, then there could have been a time when all of humanity was corrupt, and God decided to condemn the whole human lineage as a result, but leave a path to justification through Jesus. What if we define original sin as simply inheriting a sin nature from Adam? Well, you can have that with Adam as an archetype. Our evolutionary ancestors were undoubtedly selfish, like we are, and in a sense we inherit those characteristics from them. So I think you can have that sense of original sin without a literal Adam. A good book, which explores original sin in the context of various views on origins, is When Did Sin Begin by Loren Haarsma. He points out that there are many ways to conceive of original sin in the context of a non-literal Adam. How about the first claim? That Romans 5:12 to 21 teaches original sin. Well, it may not. That may sound shocking, but hear me out. Frankly, as I sit here today, I'm skeptical of the doctrine of original sin, and I'm here talking about the strict formulation of original sin, that Adam's sin was imputed to us, that we are all born under guilt before we even sin ourselves. Importantly, it's not in the Old Testament anywhere. Nowhere in the Old Testament is our sinfulness placed at the feet of Adam. For example, Adam was not blamed for the sin of Cain, or for the flood, or for the exile. And throughout the Old Testament, we see God holding individuals accountable for their actions. Look at Ezekiel 18. Verse 20 states, "The one who sins is the one who will die. The child will not share the guilt of the parent, nor will the parent share the guilt of the child. The righteousness of the righteous will be credited to them, and the wickedness of the wicked will be charged against them." Okay, but maybe there is enough in the New Testament to justify original sin? Well, proponents point mainly to Romans 5:12 to 21. And first of all, we should exercise caution. The Romans passage is very difficult, and we should interpret it in light of clearer passages like Ezekiel 18. With that in mind, let's dig in. Romans 5:12 says, "Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned." To me, this verse is saying that death, and I think spiritual death is in view here, comes to all men because all sin. The confusion actually comes because, as is well known, Augustine, whose work led to the acceptance of the doctrine of original sin, was working off of a faulty manuscript. His erroneous translation said death came to all people in whom all sinned. He took that to mean that death came to all people in whom all sinned in Adam, because we were all in the loins of Adam. So the doctrine of original sin took root because of a translation error. Today we have corrected that mistake in our modern translations, but old interpretations die hard. Many still claim that because all sinned means because all sinned in Adam. Handling verse 12 may seem straightforward, but some other verses in the passage appear more supportive of original sin. I think the toughest one is verse 18, so let's take that one. Consequently, just as one trespass resulted in condemnation for all people, so also one righteous act resulted in justification and life for all people. This is part of a series of verses where Paul is comparing and contrasting Adam and Jesus. Now, most analogies are imperfect, so we need to decipher his main point. What did Paul mean when he said that one trespass resulted in condemnation for all people? Many think this clearly points to original sin, but not everyone. For example, William Lane Craig suggests that Paul may be understood to merely trace all sinning, and hence condemnation and spiritual death, back to Adam's initial transgression through which sin entered the world. Also, I think Genesis 3 is of the genre of ancient mythology, so Paul could have been referring to Genesis 3 and the truth contained therein without commenting on the genre. Paul may have been using Genesis 3 literarily and very artfully, and thus not literally. I also think one way to look at Romans 5:18 in conversation with Genesis 3 is that Adam eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was humanity developing a conscience and then disobeying God. Once we had a conscience, sin was in the world and we did things we knew were wrong. So for myself, I would step back and try and get the gist of Paul's main point, recognizing that Paul was writing a letter and not a modern academic journal article. In that regard, I would say that one thing that is clear about the passage is that sin was introduced by man and conquered by Jesus. The passage may not affirm original sin. So those are some thoughts on this really difficult passage and this really difficult issue. Thanks for watching, and until next time, God bless.